This story takes place 27 years after the First Corporate War. The Nest by Sean Carrière. Chapter 33. Kyle was up on the second story of the bank, walking down the main corridor, the one with glassed-in offices to each side. His path was illuminated by glow sticks on the floor, gradually losing their glow. The young bounty hunter clipped his GAC submachine gun to the sling on the front of his equipment webbing before working the panel on the left forearm of his suit. As Kyle reached the foot of the narrow stairwell, he established a secure radio link between himself and Slick. The young bounty hunter was about to explain to his sniper that he had a choice to make, either follow orders from now on, or find a new job. He didn't want to embarrass Slick. So, he muted their link to the rest of the team, making sure the conversation was going to be just between the two of them.
Slick, report.
Kyle said into his suit's radio.
We need to talk.
The young bounty hunter listened for a reply as he climbed the narrow stairs, but all he heard over his radio was static. Something had to be wrong. It wasn't like Slick to ignore a teammate's communications.
Slick.
Kyle repeated with urgency in his voice.
Report.
All he heard over his suit's radio was the same silence as before. Once he reached the top floor, Kyle worked the panel along his suit's left forearm and checked the head-up display inside his helmet's visor. According to the comm icon displayed along the bottom, the radio signal was solid. So, why wasn't he getting an answer?
Slick.
Kyle said into his suit's radio one more time before unclipping his GAC. The young bounty hunter activated the tactical flashlight built into the submachine gun, not so much to light his way, but to make sure it worked. There were dozens of dimming glow sticks scattered like a path to the stairs leading up to the roof, and these worked well enough. Kyle held his weapon at the ready as he double-timed it to the stairs and kept up the same pace as he climbed, not noticing the radiation suit's weight. At the top of the stairs, across the open door to the roof, the young bounty hunter took a deep breath to steady his nerves and rested his finger on the trigger. He'd never shot anyone before, but for the first time in his life, Kyle felt a resolve to kill. Maybe it was some kind of mama bear syndrome, but if anyone out on that rooftop had harmed Slick in any way, he was going to airhole them on the spot. He carefully stepped out onto the roof and reactivated his weapon's tack light. The area on this side of the skylight was clear, but Kyle couldn't see the other side too well. The young bounty hunter flicked the light off and squatted down slightly before quietly moving toward the skylight in a half-crouch manner. Hopefully, this would make him less visible to anyone who may be watching from street level. Once Kyle was next to the skylight, he stood and shined his tack light in a smooth arc from the front western corner of the roof over to the rear of the building and back again. Slick was nowhere to be seen. Just where the hell was he? Kyle then shined the light over at the makeshift bridge, flicked the tack light off again and squatted back down. The young bounty hunter worked the console on his left forearm and activated the suit's localized network function. A second later, the small transparent circle in the corner of Kyle's head-up display took up a quarter of the helmet's visor. The circle was like an old-school radar with Kyle represented as the blue dot in the center. 3 pale blue dots were visible nearby, obviously Laura, Bench Press and Sam all still sitting together downstairs. But where was Slick's little blue dot? Kyle had to zoom out, but he soon found the sniper's transponder signal. It was visible as a pale dot somewhere within a building way down at the far end of the street. Now what the hell was he doing all the way over there?
Slick, come in.
Kyle said into his suit's radio, still hoping he'd get a response. But like before, he only heard static. The young bounty hunter immediately began working the console on his left forearm, establishing an open connection with the rest of his team.
Bench press. Wake Laura up.
Kyle began.
Sam, lock and load. I'll meet you downstairs.